So it's important when you're quoting a service, and this is the benefit of Responsibid, is to include an upsell. You want window washing outside only? We're going to give you pricing for both for your consideration and to cross-sell services. The cross-selling is the education component of sales.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Welcome back to the Better Than Rich Show. I'm your host today, Mike Abramowitz, and I am here with Christine Hodge. I know many of us have been waiting for this conversation, the Process CEO. Welcome to the show, Christine.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I know I got a chance to hear you on Phil Risher's podcast, and Phil was a guest on the Better Than Rich show. He kind of helped us kick off season 4 with serving the guys in the trades and home services, and his episode just was filled with tremendous amount of wisdom and knowledge. He is so good at what he does. And then, I asked him to make the introduction. Here we are. And then you made an introduction to a couple of people, and I think I might have introduced you to some people. So we're all in this together to help these guys in the trades, people like your husband, get out of the van and be able to get to the kitchen table for dinner time. So I'm excited to kind of just kick things off because you are kind of, I wouldn't say a unicorn in the space, but you are coming from like the white collar, kind of like me, and you're helping these blue collar guys in the trades, but you actually built the systems and the infrastructure for your family business. You got 2 kids, your husband, you're running a successful business in New Jersey, one of the fastest growing exterior cleaning companies. Why don't you give us just a little bit of the origin story so we have an understanding for just a moment, but I really want to pick your brain on some of the tactical systems. The goal is for you to share what were the systems that helped elevate the exterior cleaning company from those beginning stages where you guys were just kind of figuring things out while having kids and all of that, to growing it to a multi-7-figure enterprise that it has become in New Jersey. So why don't you give us a little bit of the origin about you, how you made the transition in, and then what were some of those early adoption systems, CRM setup, automations that you started seeing take off behind the scenes for y'all's business?
Absolutely. So my background, my entire adult career was actually spent in pharmaceuticals as a paralegal. And my focus as a paralegal was legal operations. So if something was broken in our systems at the pharmaceutical company, from a legal perspective, I liked to fix it, find efficiencies, find ways for our global counterparts to work with our US counterparts. So I was always into fixing what we identified as broken. Long story short, after, 10 years of being there, me and my husband, Fred, had our first child, and I decided I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I left that job and I was home with our daughter, who was I left that job when she was about 4 months old. And I very organically became involved in his troubleshooting conversations. His dad's a part of the business, his mom's a part of the business, his brother was a part of the business at one point. And, at family get-togethers, if there were issues or things, I was really passionate about saying like, okay, I used to do this in pharmaceuticals. This is on a much smaller scale, but I think I can help. So my first task with the company was actually finding a CRM. And then from there, and we use Jobber. And then from there, okay, now how can we take quoting off of paper? We got a quoting software, Responsibid. How can we get more Google reviews? The company's been in business forever. I mean, now it's been in business for 21 years. How can we get more Google reviews? Well, we got a software for there. So my first focus was really going electronic, getting paper out of the business. And I know that sounds silly to some people, but a lot of home service businesses today are still using paper because they feel like it's impossible to make the transition. So that was my first project with Clearview. Then we said, okay, how do we grow? How do we scale?
Can I
Of course.
Before you go to the grow and scale, we just actually had Kirk Kempton on the show. So with Responsibids, so that was one of the introductions you made, and he gave some really great insights. I'd like to hear from you as a user of Responsibid. How was that helpful for you guys in your space? Obviously, he spoke about it. Listener, you could go back and listen to his episode. But as a real user of Responsibid, what showed up for you?
I couldn't even imagine not having it. So the reason we went with Responsibid was if I submitted an estimate, my husband submitted an estimate, or my father-in-law submitted an estimate, none of them would match. So we can all quote the same building or the same house. I always joke around that my husband's price would be too high, my father-in-law's price would be too low, and mine would be perfect. That's like the running joke of the family. So you try to use spreadsheets. There are still so many home service business owners that are, even if they're using Jobber, like for quoting, they try to put in like cost per square foot into a spreadsheet and they try to systemize it manually. It's very challenging to do that. Through Responsibid, you're able to set your pricing and then you can tweak it if you need to. Another thing is our average ticket was about $750, which is still pretty good, but it was $750 about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. When Responsibid introduced bundling and creating bundle pricing with the ability to upsell and cross sell your services, our average ticket is now $1,500 residentially.
Mm.
So when people think, I don't know how to get my average ticket up, that too is a system. If you have a quoting system, you should have the ability to cross sell and upsell your services automatically, systematically to increase your average ticket.
And just to speak to the uninitiated, when you say cross sell and upsell, how would you we have listeners of the show in the landscape lighting space, so responsibility is not like perfect for them, but we have built this. We have one individual, his name is Fitz. He runs Illuminate Landscape out in Sarasota, and we built the bundles inside of House Call Pro using the small, medium, large, or good, better, best triple
Mhm.
option close. And we just installed this into his business in August. And I really want to hear from you just to kind of speak to this, that it doesn't necessarily have to be um, um, the upsell and the to keep it. I don't have to go into the short version of what I was about to say is he went 8 for 8 on his last visits, and he sold two of the larger packages just by having the triple option, just by having the three options there. So the bundles is really helpful. But I really like you to speak to this cross sell and upsell. Because we really haven't had anyone talk about that specifically in the trade. So how are you using that? How is that showing up to increase the average ticket price for you?
Absolutely. So I actually did an episode on this with the Jobber podcast, Masters of Home Service, and it's really good because it's something that we identified. So, and we train our sales team on it. So if you are upselling a service, you're basically telling a customer who wants window washing outside only the benefit of having window washing in and out done. So I understand that you're only looking for outside only. I'm including pricing for windows in and out. It looks like they haven't been done in a long time. Usually your cleaning ladies are, using a solution. We have the old school method of the squeegee. It's just a nice shine. You can get it done just once a year. You don't have to do it often. Once a year is fine. That's the upsell. So you're upselling the service that they requested to kind of add to that pricing, right? A cross sell is okay, what complements your window washing? Well, Mrs. Jones, I understand that you want to get a window washing done. I just want to let you know that you haven't had a soft wash in 2 years. Even though you don't think your house looks dirty, that dirt when it rains is going to trickle right down to those clean windows that we're about to do. So, we're going to also price you on a soft wash because that's a complimentary service to a window washing. So it's important when you're quoting a service, and this is the benefit of Responsibid, is to include an upsell. You want window washing outside only, we're going to give you pricing for both for your consideration and to cross-sell services. The cross-selling is the education component of sales. So the customer might not know that they should get a soft wash. Their home isn't green, so they're not visibly seeing anything. Or, for me, before I even married Freddie, I didn't even know that people clean their roofs. So you're educating the client by cross-selling your services.
So, and I want to park here for just again. I definitely want to hear about the scaling, and we're
Mhm.
going to get back to this. But this is really important because we have an expert who understands sales process, and I want to pick your brain and make sure that the audience can understand where we're going here. Um, when you said upsell, cross sell, are you bringing those into the bundles when you do a small, medium, large, or a good, better, best quote? Are you bringing in the upsell or cross sell into the larger bundle as like a best option? Or are you waiting until they buy one and then saying, hey, by the way, did you want to add this on as an add-on? Like, would you like fries with that? So I buy the burger and then I'm asking, would you like fries with that? Or I'm buying a burger, but instead I'm also showing you the value meal with the burger, fries, and drink next to just buying the burger. Talk to like which one you're doing and why you're choosing that method.
We're doing like the value meal method. So our smallest bundle, we call it the budget plan strategically. I can go into that, later, but because we cater to luxury clients and we always say a luxury client will never select a budget plan. So that's like a little psychology component. But in the budget plan, we include the service that they requested. So window washing outside only with a minimal cross sell. So, with window washing outside only, we'll do your front walkway as well. So it's just like, what can we do to not intimidate the client and just squeeze out, or even a trash bin cleaning, that's $50. So what can we do to squeeze out $50 to $199 in that first bundle? Not to intimidate them, but to increase this average ticket. The middle one is usually what they requested and then a few more cross-sell options. The luxury plan is where we would upsell. You know what? You're a luxury client. You should be getting your windows in and out done. You should be getting your walkway and your sidewalks done. What's the point of us cleaning your house if you're going to have brown sidewalks? And then we tweak it along the way. Sometimes they'll call and they'll say, I want the budget plan. I want that front walkway, but you know what? I will do the window washing in and out. And then we can tweak it from there on out. But the cross sell component comes in the small and medium bundle. And then the luxury bundle is usually where we would upsell.
And from a percentage standpoint, if the budget one would be priced at, let's just use arbitrary simple numbers of $500, what percentage higher is the middle one, which is like the recommended, what we want, what we think they're probably going to get?
Mhm.
What percentage higher is that? And then what percentage higher is the luxury compared to the middle? So if the lowest one was 500, the middle one would be what percentage higher than that? And then what would the luxury be higher than that, as an example? Um,
A sample and a safe way to try and sell them on that middle package, which is usually where people fall, is if you have your basic bundle as $500, we're going to try and get, $750 to $1,000 from the middle plan. And then we're going to try and spend the day at their house at $2,000 with the luxury plan.
so hypothetically, using that in math, the jump between the small, which is the budget, to a luxury is going to be 4x
Yep.
essentially.
Yep.
And the jump from the small to the medium, if I heard you right, is going to be 50% to 100% higher.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's so that's kind of so a lot of the like the landscape lighting guys, some of them are like a $6,000 average ticket or a $10,000 average ticket. So using those numbers, it's not perfect, but from a $10,000 low or the good to the middle would be 50% to 100% higher. So it would go from like 10,000 to 15,000 or 10,000 to 20,000. But then the luxury would be from 10,000 to 40,000 as an example. So are we using the luxury of the 40,000 as like let's use that to try to sell more middle packages? Is that the psychology that you're going with?
In some cases, it depends on your client avatar. Our client avatar is the luxury client. So when we show a client what we can do for their home, they are usually going to choose luxury. However, if they don't want to go luxury and there's a sticker shock factor, yes, budget and luxury are meant to draw the client to the middle option, which is like a happy medium.
So let's talk about, I know we're kind of jumping around here, but I want to talk about your qualifying process. So if you're gearing towards a luxury avatar, how do you mitigate showing up to someone who's not a luxury avatar? Like, what was what's the messaging? What is the pre-frames like inside of your automations or inside your marketing? The language that is priming that avatar to either say, "Oh, I'm not a luxury homeowner. This is not a service for me," or I am a luxury homeowner. This is the service for me, and I'm going to keep my appointment. So are you like losing appointments because we're making sure that they're qualified, so we're not wasting technicians' time to go to these homes? Or is your conversion percentage low, like as far as closing percentage, because we're only gearing towards luxury? We're weeding people out. Talk to us just about your qualification process on how you're getting them from essentially cold to sold in the highest efficient way possible. I know it's a loaded
Absolutely.
question, but I'd love to hear you just riff
No,
on
this is
that.
actually a great question because when we say the luxury client, we're not disqualifying the non-luxury client. We're not disqualifying the 1,700 square foot home or the 2,000 square foot home, right? We still have those a la carte options for them. They might still be interested in the budget plan or the middle of the road plan. The middle plan, we change the name through the season. So like in the spring, it's spring savings. So we're not trying to disqualify the client that's not going to spend $2,000 to $4,000 with us. But the pre-qualifiers is when we go through the intake or when they fill out the job or request, we are taking the square footage of their home. If the client's home is less than 3,000 square feet, we're doing the quote remotely. This is so that the sales team isn't spending too much time on the road quoting a client that may think our prices are too high for them. So we're cranking out remote estimates for homes under 3,000 square feet. And then we are going to in-person visits for homes over 3,000 square feet. We're showing up in a branded sales vehicle. Our sales reps are all branded with their outfits. We're showing up with I think I have one right here. We're showing up with a beautiful folder so that they're keeping it. Inside the folder, we have a bunch of pages of, questions that, FAQs, and obviously we're insured, but like all kinds of things that a client would typically ask, we want to leave it with them so that when they talk to their spouse, which, they're always going to talk to their spouse, they have all the information at hand. So we do tend to treat the client differently when it's larger than 3,000 square feet because we're trying to get them to go for that luxury plan. How do you sell a luxury plan? You're branded. Your brand stands out. You have over 1,000 five-star Google reviews. You have to show your value. We always say that our client avatar is not looking for the cheapest price. Our client avatar is looking for the best value, the best company. Who can I trust with my home? To follow up with this, sales doesn't end there. Our crews show up in branded vehicles. They all look very presentable in their branded shirts. They are all very well spoken. We trust them in and outside of the client home. So, if you were to go back to the process component of what I did at Clearview, our hiring process for field technicians, it's not just you need a job, come work. We are hiring really, really great people to represent our brand.
All right, Christine, I got to unpack more. As you talk, there's more
I
unpacking to
love
do.
it.
So I just want to get clear on this. If you said there's an if then, if it's a 3,000 square foot home, then we book it on site. If it's less than a 3,000 square foot home, then we're going to give them a quote over the phone. Did I understand that if then correctly?
Yes.
So how are we gathering that address information? Is that something that they're filling out on a form? Is that the CSR is asking that question over the phone and then quickly putting it into like Zillow? Like what's the process behind the if then on how do I get the address? And then how am I searching that real time in order to know whether or not I'm booking them or I'm giving them a quote?
Sure. So we use Jobber. So on our website, if you were to fill out the quote request form, you'd be putting the client would put the information there. When our VAs are on the phone with the client, they're capturing the square footage. They're saying, by any chance, would you happen to know the approximate square footage of your home? They are also on Zillow or on Google looking up the square footage of the home. And we do ask some questions to ensure that the home is still that square footage. So if you go on Google
I'm
and
actually I'm actually pulling up your website right now and I'll share a screen. So for those watching on
right,
YouTube, so what you're saying is if I click here for this request a free quote, oh, it asked me for my address, so I have to put my address in.
exactly.
Got it.
So
Okay.
based off of that, we're always going to check the square footage and then we're going to confirm it with the client.
Now, here's an interesting question that we've had is, does asking the address mitigate how many people fill out the form because it's too invasive before they have a relationship with you? Do you have a take on that?
Never. I mean, we've never had, there has been scenarios where a client would say, I don't want to give my email address. And then we would just, and that's probably less than
Well,
10 a year.
their home address.
No, we've never really had a rebuttal on a home address because we can't
Hmm.
provide you with any information without a home address. The rebuttal usually comes with the email address because they don't want to start getting emails from us. And then we just say, we can't email you your estimate without, I can't even enter you into my system without an email address. So you may have to contact another company.
Yeah, the email address is fine. But the home address was one that we were curious on because, there it's hard to tell. Like, it's like, how many visitors do I have on my website compared to how many fill out the form, but then how many start the form but don't complete the form because it asks for address and address is mandatory. And it's hard to know if we're losing prospects who don't want to necessarily give that address information up front. And that's a mandatory field that they have to
Mhm.
recruit. So again, I don't have enough information on that, but that's why I was curious. But from your seat, you're not necessarily seeing that as a deterrent in your case, which is great news. But again, I didn't have enough information to make that call.
I wish I knew the data behind that. I just, what for me, if I were the consumer, if I see a branded website, if I read those Google reviews, I know that you're reputable. I'm not just putting my information. But then there are times for other services where I've gone onto a website and it looked a little shifty. They don't really have any Google reviews, maybe like five. They're all great. They must be, in that case, you do have to really prove your credibility online, get Google verified. And homeowners are pretty tech savvy now, so they are doing their research before contacting you. So I don't think that they would not fill out the form if you're showing your value up front.
Cool. I think it's a great response. And what I also like about your website while we're here is I could click here for a free quote. I can call now and it immediately goes to like FaceTime or I could call.
Mhm.
But if I'm a consumer, I also have this chat feature over here too that I could engage through chat as well. And is this through Go High Level or where do you have this built on as far as the
Um,
forum and the chat?
this is all credited to Phil Risher, actually.
Cool.
So
So
he transformed our website. He put in that 7-second fill out form. He put in
yeah.
the chat. So um, I do think that he is using Go High Level.
Yeah, it looks like it is, which is great.
Yes.
That's what we recommend as well. And knowing Phil, I assume that's what he's doing on his front end as well. So yeah,
Yep.
Go High Level is just so functional. So when I fill out this form, that triggers an automation, I assume that sends me a text, sends me an email, and there's probably a video in there like welcoming me of some sort. Is that
Yep.
accurate?
Absolutely. We have videos for many components of our company in our follow-up sequence. Another strategy that we use that I recommend to a lot of people that I coach is we have links to our website, to different pages of our website along the entire process of communication with the client. So if the client is getting hey, thanks for submitting a form, while we work on your estimate, in the meantime, check out our before and afters page, and then it'll send them to the website. Then they'll get like hey, thanks for approving your estimate. We'll call you soon to schedule, but check out our FAQs. So we are using our follow-up sequence to organically increase our Google rankings by constantly driving traffic to our website.
Interesting. That's a cool strategy. And those are text messages or emails or both.
We do a little bit of both. We have emails that go out, and then we also have short text messages that go out.
It's great.
And that's
So
all
so
through Responsibid.
Oh, okay. So this is so after the appointment is booked, is that essentially what you're saying? The automations from the time the appointment is booked until the time dispatch gets to the home or a different part of the journey? I just want to make sure I heard
The
that.
automations follow the client from the time that they fill out that form on the website, the automations kick in. So it's actually pretty cool because they'll get an email saying, we received your request. Someone will be in touch with you shortly. Um, then when they receive the estimate, it triggers an automation, feel free to check out your estimate. We'll be in touch with you to answer any questions. We have automations in place that trigger out of responsibility. They don't trigger the client after 2 days. They actually trigger the our sales representative on the job. So the sales rep gets an email saying now's the time to call the client. They haven't approved the estimate yet. So we have all types of triggers going out to the
And
client and
that
to our team.
and to clarify, that estimate is only for the under 3,000 square foot homes. Is that correct?
Yeah, if it's over 3,000 square feet, our VA is calling the client and they're setting up an in-person visit with our sales rep.
And you
That
said Jobber has the automation where that address can automatically tell you, does the automation on the if then, or does a human need to see whether it's a 3,000 square foot
the
home or
human
not?
has to identify the
Okay.
square footage. I hope that in the future we have that automated.
But that because that's interesting because that's kind of a bottleneck a little bit for the sequence of whether or not we're sending them towards an estimate or towards a booking an appointment then, right?
Yeah, our VAs are really great at so like systematically the way that we do this is if it has to be a remote quote, so it's a virtual quote, it goes onto the jobber calendar for the sales rep, the residential sales rep for any time. So you can do this quote anytime today. That's how
Mm.
they know it's remote. Then our system is if it's an in-person visit, our VA calls, they schedule the visit, and then that goes on at an actual time for the salesperson. So that's how the salesperson knows what they're quoting. We try for our sales reps to do 10 remote estimates and 5 in-person estimates a day.
And the sales rep is not the same as a technician, or is that the same?
No, it's not the same. The sales rep is separate.
Okay, so can you speak to that a little bit? Because a lot of these companies, the salesperson sometimes has to be the tech. Um, so you have someone that's going to the home, that's in their shirt, that's the sales representative, pitching the job is different than the person who's going to actually do the washing of the windows, correct?
Yes.
Now the salesperson that's showing up to the house that's pitching, and explaining the services is also the CSR that's calling these people to book up their appointments, and they're booking up their own appointments in some cases for the 3,000 plus dollar homes, or is that, did I miss that one?
Our virtual assistants, so our admins are the ones who are booking the appointment, the sales appointment, and then our sales team is just showing up.
Okay, so when you said the 10 estimates, virtual estimates, and the 5 in person, that's for
Mhm.
your virtual assistant team.
That's for my sales rep, but the virtual assistant team is basically setting up their day. So the virtual assistant is basically going to tell my sales rep tomorrow, you have 10 virtual appointments to do. And then you have 5 in-persons to do. And we
Got
set them up
it.
like we have a route. So like we'll do certain towns on certain days. So like we would have a route for him where he would stay, if possible, within the same area of New Jersey.
Yeah, that's great. And so that salesperson will go to response a bid, put in, this is what I think that person, that homeowner needs, puts the bundles together
Mhm.
and sends that invoice over to the homeowner for them to look at, and ideally then they'll get a yes or a no type of thing.
Correct. Yep.
Got
There,
it.
our
Okay, cool.
requirement is that they can't, we do not send estimates with only the service that was requested. That's a company requirement.
Do you have, I know Phil teaches this, that 21 day process where your estimate is only valid for 21 days and you have to respond back during that time frame and then almost like giving them an incentive or a bonus to respond back within that 21-day period?
Yes.
Yeah,
We
that's, could you,
really,
could
so
you speak, yeah, speak to that and
yeah,
yeah,
so a goal of so we live in a time right now where people need things immediately. So if a wife comes home and says, "My windows are filthy, I really need to get them clean. I'm going to call a company. I'm going to schedule this and I just want it done now." You have to give it to them now. If you wait, you're going to lose them because that wife is going to have kids, a sick dog, errands to run, and then in a week she's going to be like, the windows can wait. Christmas is coming. I have other things to spend my money on. So You want to take from the time that they submit a request or call your company to the time that you do the job, and you want to make that window as small as possible. So if you let a
Yeah.
quote sit out there for over 21 days, you're not getting the job. Like in most cases, you're not. It's just sitting there taking up space in response of it. Market declined. So we want to try and make that space. So from the time they submit a request, I want them to get an estimate within 24 hours, if possible. I understand in-person visits can be a little different, but I want them to get a quote as fast as possible. When they get that estimate, you've got to sell them as quick as possible. It can't sit there for a week or two. They've moved on. And then same with the job. They can approve a job, and if you don't get them on the calendar, they still will move on. So you really want to try and take that. We use a system called Hourly IQ, and it's a production tool. But anyway, there's a lot of data that goes in from Jobber, and you're able to see how long your average time from when the client requests a service to the time that you close the job, what that window is. And our goal at Clearview is to make it as short as possible. And that's on sales.
Cool. Yeah, I just pulled it up. I've not heard of that one before. So it looks like for Jobber House Call Pro, it's a dashboard.
Yep.
Very
This is
cool.
it's great.
Yeah, very cool. So it's a cool tech tool for the listener to check out. All
Yep.
right. I kept poking around. I felt like there was more, but we'll I know there's more, but why don't you keep on the journey of the story? So this whole tangent with this whole sidebar
Mhm.
was before we started scaling and then we started scaling, and then I interrupted you and went on this whole tangent. So why don't you continue on on the success story of what you did with Clearview?
Sure. So, once I organically became involved in helping to solve problems, have to be in the field so much. And the first thing that we said we needed to hire were field technicians. So we developed, well, we didn't develop this back then, but the field technicians we were hiring, it was like if you could walk and drive, you're in, you're hired. And so, that being said, we had a lot of turnover. We would bring someone in just because we were desperate to get my husband off the truck, and they would work for us for a few weeks, and they would be no shows. And you never want to fire anyone because if they show up tomorrow, you still want them on a job. So we didn't have a system for that. So I developed a really great hiring system to hire field techs. We have like no turnover at Clearview. We maybe lose like one person per year. And it's really because we're hiring good people. It's a multi-step hiring system, which I know most home service business owners think it's absolutely ridiculous to have this type of a process to hire someone to power wash, but you need it. We have a an email, templates that go back and forth with the person to set up a phone interview. I have a set of phone interview questions that we have to talk on the phone. If I like them by phone, I set up an in-person interview with our head of field operations and my husband, Fred. And then usually once they get there, they're usually in. The whole goal is make sure that they answer the call when they say they're going to answer the call. Make sure they respond to the email. Make sure that they show up when they say they're going to show up. Make sure that they can speak to me nicely on the phone. I've done phone interviews where the guy sounded like he was sleeping. I'm like, "Well, we're not hiring you." Well, I have power washing experience. I don't care. We can teach anyone to power wash. I need a good person who's motivated and wakes up early and is looking for a job if they don't have one right now, someone who's going to show up on time, someone who's going to speak to me with respect. So we have this really intricate process that I actually teach through my coaching program to hire really great field technicians. And that was the second thing that I set up for Clearview. From there, we got great field techs. And that's how my husband was able to then focus on, operations and behind the scenes and marketing and things.
And
So,
if you
mhm.
could you speak to where those field techs are hanging out? Like, I mean, realistically, we had Qasim Aslam, and his episode just released, and he talked about most of these guys in the trades. They're not like on job boards. They're not like on Indeed, looking scrolling job boards. Typically, if they want to become a power washer, so where are you advertising to get that emails or get those exchanges started? Where's that pool of candidates that you have found in the past, or that you might suggest to your members of your process CEO community? Hey, go fishing in these ponds if you need some technicians. What would you say to that?
We have two lead sources, only two lead sources for hiring field techs. We're open to others, but for the guys that we have, they're all from Indeed or they're all referrals from our field technicians. So we give $300 to our field techs if they bring someone on and that person stays for over 60 days. So that incentivizes them to bring on friends. We have such a great culture at Clearview that our guys do bring in their friends. Like they'll say, I love my job. Come work with us if you lost your job.
Your initial getting Fred out of the van and out of doing the pressure washing, Indeed was actually a success for finding these field techs.
Yeah, it's believe it or not, and we don't pay to post our ad. Everyone thinks that you have to pay to get leads on Indeed. We have never spent a dollar on Indeed, but I have a really strong template job posting. If you want people to work for you, you have to also advertise your company in a way that sounds exciting and engaging and room for growth. I always say I don't want this to be a job for the type of person that I want to bring into Clearview. I want this to be their career. I want them to be here. I want them to stay. I want them to grow with us. I want them to be here as long as possible. And if they leave us, I want them to leave a better person than they were when they joined. So through that, I have a really strong job posting that does get really great applicants. And we have some guys, and my parents have said it, like my parents have met our field techs at Clearview Day, and they'll say, like, these guys are great. Like, I can't believe they're power washers. Like, there's this thing about the blue collar industry. And I'm like, they are fantastic people. They are motivated. They get up and they go to the gym before they come to work. Like, we have great people working at our company. That does exist. So when I talk to home service business owners that say, like, my biggest issue is my field technicians, it's just because you have to systemize your hiring process.
So two things I want you to speak about is what is Clearview Day? So tell us about that,
That's a fun one.
and then I also want you to speak to what does it mean to you and your company, and how do you communicate leaving our company better than when you first got here? Speak to those two, please.
Sure. So Clearview Day is a company event, a company-wide event that we do every August, which is our slow season. And it's where we bring everybody who works for the company together because we're all kind of working from different places. And we bring them together and we do something special and we make a day of it. And the day is paid. So this past year was a great one. Me and my husband joined the Lifetime Gym. I don't know if you've heard of Lifetime, but it's like a gym that's like a country club. It's amazing. And they have a beautiful outdoor pool. So we actually rented out the outdoor pool. We had they catered a bunch of food. They catered protein shakes. I signed us. We did like we always do a team building activity. So we did a group assisted stretch class. So we had an instructor take us all into the gym, and we all did stretch together, followed by the protein shakes in the pool. And then we had an open bar, and we always bring our kids to it. And so it's really, and then my mother and my father-in-law are there. So it's like, and then my parents come too. So it's like a family thing, like showing the family values alongside our employees. And it's really nice. And the employees every year, they're like, this is the best one we've ever been to because we always try and beat the year before. Last year, I surprised them with Clearview Day. So I did it a little earlier than usual. And I had them meet us in a luxury shopping center. And I tricked them and I said, I want the sales team to act as the field guys, and I want the field guys to act as the sales team. So as we're walking this property, I want you guys to identify to identify from a sales perspective, what does the field crew need to know? Where's the water source? Are we going to need a rent a lift? Da, da, da. So I kind of set them up and we walked the entire property, and then we stopped in front of the Nike store. And once we got there, I was like, just kidding. You're all going on a shopping spree. And we gave everyone $200 to shop at Nike for the day. And then after that, they came to our house and my husband barbecued for everyone. So we
How
always
long?
try
How
and
many
do,
guys is this?
in the height of the season, we're at about 28 people,
So you
including, mhm.
so you're investing $5,000 to $10,000 on a day or
Yep.
more.
Yep. But you
But
have to, they're doing the labor. Like we are here, we are in business. I'm on this podcast because of them. You know what I mean? They're the ones who are giving us feedback about the best techniques in power washing and what could make their lives easier. And, we are here, we are in business because of them. We would not be a $2.5 million company if it was only my husband on that truck. So, how can we give back to them? How can we show that they're appreciated? We do bonuses, we do things like that, but you have to cater to everyone's love language. They need words of affirmations. They need, hugs. I hug all of our guys. I love them. They know my kids. Like everyone needs to feel appreciated, and we're able to do that on Clearview Day.
so coming back to the question also of like, I want to make sure that these guys become better humans because they worked with us. How is that communicated in the ad to attract these people? And then how is that managed? Obviously, you just gave a taste of that with Clearview Day, but like, how is that? Yeah, how are you managing some of those expectations of like, hey, that's not one of our standards. Well, what are the standards? Or that's not what we're really looking for when they, if like, do you have to correct them or like, what does that mean to like be raised in a healthy environment?
Mhm.
And is compensation tied to this? Is it reward system like carrot and stick? Like what talk, just kind of speak to that, whatever rings true for you.
It's a little bit of everything. That's a great question because it kind of goes back to like the love language thing. Like not everyone is fueled by money. We have a few guys that, if I said, actually, I'll give you an example from probably like 4 or 5 years ago. We had a guy who was great in the field, but he was late every single day. So I said, I'm going to start deducting 25 or $50 per day from your production bonus, your monthly production bonus, thinking like he'll stop being late. He never stopped being late. Like he wasn't fueled by money. He was not motivated by money. You say that to somebody else and they'll never be late again. So you have to be able to find out like what is driving them. So in our job posting, we're very clear. Like this is a family run business. We stand behind our morals and our value. This is our mission statement. Just try and get them to get a feel for the business that way. Once they're in, um, we truly care about our guys. We have relationships with them. We during our Clearview kickoff meeting, it's on March 1st every year because we're slow in the winter. So on March 1st, we bring everyone for the season in and I do this like team building thing and it's like a bonding thing. And everyone used to think it was so cheesy, but I always would pick a question like, what was the best day of your life? And I have each guy stand up and come to the head of the room and share. Why? Because I want them to build confidence. The guys hate getting up in front of a room to talk. These guys are not very confident. You don't know how they grew up. You don't know how they're living right now. I want them to have a space where they're confident. We are their family. They're going to come up in front and they're going to speak to us. That's important to me. They come up and they share some really deep, deep stories with us. The one year I did, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to see yourself? And I gave them post-its, and then we created a company vision board, and then that went up on the wall for the year. One of them wanted to buy a house. He bought a house that year. We were all able to celebrate it. One of them wanted to propose to his girlfriend. He didn't propose last year, he proposed this year. We're seeing their visions come to life. They might not have that support where they are. We want to be that support for them. One of our guys worked for us through college. And he was great. And then he graduated and he came back to work for us. And then I was like having a conversation with him. What was your major? What did you? He's like, I'm really looking for a job. I want to work with children with special needs. My cousin runs a school for children with autism. I set him up an interview with my cousin. He got the job. They love him over there. And now they're paying to get his master's degree. So my husband was like, I loved him as an employee. I'm like, yeah, but he doesn't want to do this for the rest of his life. He wants to do something else, and we helped him get there. So our goal is we're leaders. Like this isn't just power washing at this point. We're feeding too many people and too many families. We have to make them better people. I want them, we have guys who have quit drinking. We have guys who have quit smoking. They'll come in and they'll say, I've been sober for 6 months thanks to you guys, thanks to you and Freddie's support. That's the reward in being a leader. You can make your leadership however you want it to look, and this is what we want ours to look like.
Damn, Christine. I think the listener is just in awe right now because I think anyone's that's listening to what you just said says, "Damn, I know I want to build a business that does that, that creates that, that has that type of work environment." And I think it's really powerful, and I love that you have created that for your people. And really impressive to say, "Oh, it's a pressure washing company." No, no, no. This is a people company, and we happen to do pressure washing, and that was the MO for 20 years when I was in direct sales with Cutco. It's like,
Yep.
we're a people company that happen to sell knives, right? And it's just like that's what I just heard you say, and I absolutely love that. So, um, Christine, I'd like to. Is there anything else you want to speak upon about Clearview or the growth of Clearview before I take a hard pivot into a completely different direction before we head towards the exits?
I'll follow your lead.
Okay, cool. So I want to hear a little bit about how you transitioned from, okay, I built the success story for Clearview. I'm the mastermind behind the systems and the operations and the automations and the hiring processes and the follow up. And I also heard you say, like, I hired Who's and used their technology. I hired Phil Risher to help me with this. I hired Kurt Kempton to help me with this. Your web developer, I hired him to help me with this, right? Like, these are people you found Who's that you are investing into partnership relationships with these people so you can just remain in your expertise. Um, and that has led you now to the process CEO. So why don't you talk to us just about you hired these Who's to help you buy back your time while also making sure that Clearview is in good place. So it's like, let me get these systems going in Clearview, hire some vendors and contractors and Who's to kind of like keep the ship running without me. And now that time is bought back and you started this other entity over here of the process CEO. Talk to us about, how did you vet those vendors? Why did you choose to hire them? How did you know that you needed them? What was it like to buy back that time as a mom of two and a married woman and living in, the chaos of New Jersey that I grew up in? And you're actually, your neighbor is someone I went to high school with, right? We could talk about that in a moment
That
too, but
still blows my mind.
that's so funny. Talk just like kind of give us that story there, and that's those storylines.
Absolutely. So we got to a point. The cool thing about scaling is that you get to a certain point where you're like, now I'm at the point where I've maxed out my skill set in this. I'll use marketing, for example, and I now need a professional to help take me to the next level. And that's where you would hire, someone to do marketing. Or my husband and his father are completely maxed out in estimates, and they've owned this company for 21 years, but they're not sales representatives. You know what I mean? It's just a really passionate family business. So we need a really strong sales rep to get us to the next level. So you kind of have to, and I read Buy Back Your Time. It's one of my favorite books. So you really have to identify, like, am I in the position financially where I can now hire an expert to take over, to wear this hat for me so that I can get some of my time back? And if the money makes sense, then you do it. So that's kind of our system with that. Um, Anything. I mean, even through coaching, I would say, if someone has 150 Google reviews, that's fantastic that you got 150 Google reviews on your own. But if you systemize it or you hire a company, or you use Jobber now has the feature to get Google reviews for you automatically from your clients when you finish a job with them, you're going to end up with over 1,000 Google reviews within the next 2 years. So it's very important to identify some of your weaknesses and see if you can afford to hire the expert to take that part over for you.
How do you decide that? What was your way of going about, like, whether or not you could afford to hire that expert? Because there's a scarcity play where it's like, if I spend too much for things that I could do myself, then it's like, there's a little bit of that insecurity, scarcity, uncertainty that might go behind that. How did you go through that?
When we are able to say, I don't have the capacity to do this anymore, or I don't have the skill set to do this anymore. And the problem with a lot of business owners is there's a little bit of or a lot of like pride and ego just because it's your business and it doesn't come from a malicious place. It comes from a place of passion. This is my business. I'm going to be the best salesperson in the world. But the reality is you're going to need help at one point, you know? So it's being able to say like you're going to be better at this than I am. Our field operations manager right now, he's the guys love him. Like he is so high energy. Me and Freddie could have never done what he's doing right now with the volume of work that we have. You just have to hire the right personalities for the place. We do something called protect the net. So every other year is an investment year. So one year we're gonna buy a new truck because we're ready to grow. Last year we bought two new trucks, and we're gonna buy a sales car, and we're going to do our hiring. And during that year, I know that this is an investment. We're investing into the salesperson because we're confident that we're going to get the return from them. And they have to drive a branded sales car because we've raised our prices significantly and we have to look the part. So and then we bought two new trucks because we're going to have to hire for the volume of work that we're projecting. So through this, I know that at the end of the year, Clearview's probably not going to hit our target of 20% net profit, right? But then this year, okay, now we're going to reap the rewards of our investment year last year and we're going to protect the net. So we're going to operate much leaner than we did last year. And then we reassess our numbers, see if we hit our target. And then next year, maybe we'll do another investment year. So we try and alternate years for that. If you protect your net and you have enough wiggle room there, and I would say you're somewhere between like 15 and 25%, you can afford to hire out. I say like a safe marketing budget, I would say uh, me and Freddie have different numbers. I say 3 to 5%. He says 5 to 7%. Take whichever one you want. We could say 3 to 7%. I think it depends on where you are in your business. But like, look at your profit and loss statement and like see where you are and see if you can afford it through that. Are you able to protect your net profits and stop wasting money on silly stuff so that you can reinvest into your company? And through reinvesting, aside from trucks and field crew, can you hire out the services that you can no longer take on?
Damn. Okay. So this is why you started Process CEO to help guys that are not seven figures yet. And this is where I really love the overlap between the Process CEO and Better Than Rich, because we're mainly working with the 3 to 5 million dollar range. Obviously that's such arbitrary because 3 to 2.5 million in pressure washing is a lot different than 2.5 million at like custom remodels, like with one of our clients with Allure. It's like what like some of his ticket items are like 300 grand. So 2.5 million in that business is a lot different than a $1,500 pressure wash, right? So it's super impressive what you guys have built. But ultimately, that's who we like to work with. But with the Process CEO, your job is to kind of take them in those early six figures to mid six figures to the point where they need to plug in the automations and CRMs and hire out and stuff. And that's where kind of like our company or Phil Rischer's, Flash Consulting comes into play. I know we're kind of coming up to the end of this episode, but I'd love for you to just speak about Process CEO. I do believe that a lot of individuals listen to the show that are in that early six figures or mid six figure range that could use your counsel. You are offering that as a service, your community, you have a school community, you're coaching. Speak to that a little bit, please.
Of course. So we found that companies that are even at like $500,000, they still haven't input systems because you can do $500,000 with you still being on the truck and, 2 to 3 trucks max. So that's where it's important because then you're going to be stuck and it's going to feel like it's going to take forever to get to $1 million. And I'm trying to accelerate that process. So it doesn't take like it took us forever to get to $1 million. We want to speed that up for you. So through my coaching community, it's called the Process CEO. It's hosted on school.com. If you search the Process CEO, it'll come right up. I do weekly group calls with my clients, and it's usually based on a specific topic. And then all of my resources and things that I have worked on through Clearview and systems, hiring process, all of that is available in that school classroom. So people can kind of learn as they go. We can talk about it on group calls. It's really nice because I've gotten to know a lot of the business owners really well. We've helped it's also like there's a forum so everyone can communicate. We've helped people land commercial bids. We've helped people who didn't even know how to get into commercial work. We've gotten them into a few organizations, and now they've gone commercial, and their margins are a lot higher. So it's been so nice getting to know everybody, and it's also really rewarding knowing that I'm helping people accelerate that. Outside of my Process CEO school community, we are developing an accelerated 6-week program where you're going to get all of our SOPs and everything just up front. And that'll come with 6 weeks of coaching calls. And that is launching shortly, so stay tuned. And that's really, I am so passionate the way we are with our employees, where I want everyone to just be better and present the best version of themselves. And I've seen what we've done with Clearview, and I want others to see what that feels like. Because when you know that you're feeding all of these families, and these guys are so loyal to you, and girls, we had a really cool girl working for us. Just when you see what you can do for other people, it makes it that much better going to work every day, saying, like, I'm not, yeah, we're power washing people's homes, we're washing their windows, but it's not really about that. We've created a community here, and we want to grow it as big as we can.
That's great. Listener, please do yourself a favor, the Process CEO. You can click right there, join the Process CEO community. All the information is right here with Christine. Really excellent stuff. And appreciate what you're doing. Christine, we ask every guest, every episode, what does it mean to you to be better than rich?
Oh, I love this question. I am a mother of two, and I'm a wife first before business. So for me to have the ability to do something I'm super passionate at work, but also be able to be a mom and a wife and be present for my family, that's like the entrepreneurship dream. And I'm living it. So I think that's better than rich.
That's great. How old are the two kiddos now?
Our daughter's 8, and our son is going to be 6 in a few weeks.
8 and 6. That's so good. I really love it. I love your story. I love everything that you stand for, your success, all the learning experiences, and it's only the beginning. I mean, you got little kids. I got a almost 5 and almost 2-year-old. So it's just great to see us. We're all in this together, and helping, taking our gifts that we've learned and helping other people. So thank you for the introductions and the cross paths, and we'll kind of just keep seeing where things unfold as we're both, Jersey natives. I still, Kenny Fung from basketball, junior varsity basketball. It's so funny.
Our kids are in the same class.
That's so funny. I love that. Yeah, listener, if you don't know, we just connected from this, but her neighbor across the street, I went to high school with the two of them. They're high school sweethearts, and I was on junior varsity basketball with Kenny, which is so funny. So and Carrie, I think
them.
we had like Spanish class together or something. But anyway,
Yeah.
thanks so much for your time, Christine. And listener, obviously we couldn't have the show without you. So if you're enjoying season 4, if you like this conversation style, if you like being able to join us live, we have these conversations live, so you could join us. Thanks, Chris, for being here. If you know anyone who's an expert in the trades or could be of value to the show, or you think we should have a conversation with, I'd love that introduction. And we're just continuing to serve this community as much as possible. So Christine, thank you. Listener, thank you. And as always, leave today better than you found it. Till next time on the Better Than Rich Show. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at betterthan_rich and join our Facebook group at the Better Than Rich Show. Thanks again for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, leave today better than you found it.